Welcome to Meet Me in the Pet House. And we're so excited you're back for another episode because we have got another great one. I mean, we never disappoint, I don't feel, because we've got great people in our lives. God always blesses us with wonderful people in our lives. And again, it's another great woman, shocker, Dr. Melissa Saunders. And I'm going to give her background and her bio, but we actually met in San Diego at a longevity human optimization course. Amy and I went there literally last minute. I think we booked the ticket with a week's advance notice and just were like, you know what? We've never, ever like gone somewhere and been disappointed. So we jumped in and went to, honestly, we did not know what it was, but Melissa was someone that I know I met during lunch. And always get the VIP seating. That's always important because you always meet great people. And so at this lovely lunch that was all mindful brain health food, I met Dr. Melissa Saunders, and I'm going to read her bio just because she's so impressive. But she is a chiropractor. She is an entrepreneur. She is an author, which is really exciting. A recent author and a podcast host. Let me just be able to say that right. And I think the biggest thing is her story is so powerful, and none of this, the podcast, the leaving, right, the safety net of medicine. You and I both did that, like leaving that safety net of a paycheck, and God knows what we're doing out there in the world, but leaving that because of you had that pull in your heart, right? You had that just like there's got to be something more, and I know for you it really started with a I don't want to say the word diagnosis, but with a traumatic event that happened, an illness in your life. And that's really where it's led you today. So I just welcome, first of all, to Meet Me in the Pet House. We're so happy to have you here, and just tell us a little bit about yourself, you know, like mom, wife, all the good stuff. And then let's really work into that story because it's
so powerful.
So powerful.
Sure. Yeah. Ladies, I'm so glad to be here with you. I mean, I had so much fun meeting you at lunch, and it was just, such a testament of like, I could have just sat there and been in my head and ate my food. And I think I was talking to a friend that was on the right side of me. And it was just one of those moments where it was like, hey, what's your name? Vulnerable, a little bit uncomfortable, but we created a connection and we just hit it off right out the gate. And then I met Amy and you guys came to my workshop, and just so happy for you guys with this epic studio and podcast and all the things that you're sharing. So really excited to be here with you. We've talked about doing this for a while and we're finally here. So thank you for having me. Thank you. So I'm Melissa Saunders. I am 44 years old. I've got 3 beautiful children. They're now 15, 13, and 9, which is just crazy. I've been a chiropractor for 20 years, which is even crazier because I still feel like I'm in my 20s. And you
look like it. I was going to say, and it does not hurt that you definitely look 24.
Thank you. I have a lot of fun, and I feel like that, I don't know, that is apparent. So, I think like a lot of today's women, at one point in my life, I was like checking off all the boxes, doing all the things. For me, what that looked like was full-time in practice as a chiropractor. I love, love, love being a chiropractor. Mm-hmm. With my husband. My husband's a chiropractor as well. We built our clinic together over the last 20 years. And about 10 years ago, I was running my life, doing all the things right. But underneath all of it was like overstimulation and overwhelm and kind of these whispers that kept coming up, whether it was throughout the day, like I need a break, I need a minute. Or if it was when I was cooking dinner for the kids after a full day of work, I need something for myself. I need to put up my feet. And I think like a lot of us women, I got really good at like shoving that down. Or sometimes it would come up in the morning. I'm tired. I want to sleep in. But I would reply back, well, this is my only window to wake up. So you're not going to have more sleep. You're going to have more caffeine.
Yes. And you're going to get that workout in, by golly.
You're going to get that. You're going to go to CrossFit at 5 a.m. and listen to Guar under the bright lights and flip some tires and do some deadlifts.
Yes.
And, on paper, like I felt like I was doing everything right. This is what a healthy person does. And my body is giving me these signals, but I'm not listening because I'm working out. I'm eating clean. I'm taking care of my children. I'm successful in my career. Like check, check, check. And you know what happens when we don't listen to the whispers? They became a scream, or for everyone,
Mhm.
they become a scream. And for mine, you know, gradually it just got harder to ignore that voice. And I started getting headaches, which I never had. I started getting really, really tired. I started getting more forgetful. And then it got rapidly worse. And I ended up with meningitis and encephalitis.
Wow.
So I basically had complete nervous system shutdown. What happened is I got a tick bite and I got exposed to mold toxicity, both at the same time. And so, you know, you could point your finger at like that's what happened. And so I got
Right.
meningitis and encephalitis. Or
It's
you
the
could look
tick.
at I was just putting myself in a situation where like if it wasn't that, it was going to be something else that was going to knock me down. And
Mhm.
so I hit rock bottom. I know you guys have heard me say this before. Like I literally, it's like I felt like I had dementia or Alzheimer's in my early 30s with my children at the time were 6, 4, and 1. And so there were times when, I mean, I couldn't find my way to our office, which is down the road from our house. I had gone every day for 15 years. Like you think about how scary that is when you're like in the peak of your health in your career. And then there were a few times where it got really, really bad where I would like look at my kids' friends and I couldn't remember who they were, what their names were. And then actually like a couple times I couldn't even get my children's names. Like I'd go to, you know, call them or whatever. And I'm like, I can't even recall the information. It was so scary. I just had so much inflammation in my brain.
I
And
remember,
so
Melissa, I'm going to interrupt you
Mhm.
here for a minute because I think it's
Yeah.
so powerful. Tell the story of kindergarten graduation and the tears.
Mm, yeah. So my oldest son, Levi, who's 15 now, we were at his kindergarten graduation and I was like in the thick of, you know, feeling some stuff. And of course, you look fine on the outside. And so
Yeah.
nobody recognizes, nobody knows what you're dealing with. And again, as women, we're like so quote unquote good at like hiding it. And so I'd been hiding even from my husband how bad I was struggling. And I remember I had our 4-year-old on one side of me, my husband on the other, and I'm like breastfeeding Kaya, our baby. And I'm looking up at the stage and they're singing this adorable Bruno Mars song, You Can Count on Me, like 1, 2, 3. You know, I'm like bawling. And all these women next to me are like, oh my God, our babies, like they're graduating. And I was like, yeah, yeah, yeah. But I was bawling because I couldn't remember any of the kids' names and I was struggling to remember my sons. Now, mind you, I was the class parent and all these children, most of them had been to our house, you know, at one time or another. Like I knew these kids. And so in that moment, I just remember being like, holy shiznit, like something is dramatically wrong. And just looking around and feeling like so scared, so isolated, so alone, like looking at my husband and I'm sure I had fear in my eyes, but like, how do I even tell him how bad I'm struggling? We've got 3 small children, a full practice. Like, how can I even put this on him? I don't even know what this is. So it was so, so, so scary and
Well,
devastating.
and
But looking back, you know, it's what completely pivoted me into these tools that we'll get into at some point in the podcast that have changed everything for me.
Well, and I have so much admiration because so many women would stuff that down, like you said you were doing. Maybe think, make excuses for the way they're feeling. I think that,
Mhm.
and so what made you then decide you needed to say something, that you needed to speak up to your husband, or was there an
Oh, I
event?
mean, I definitely made a million and one excuses and I definitely pushed it way past where it should have gone, but I literally couldn't. I mean, I hit a point where like I would have these staring spells. My husband saw it. Like I would get stuck staring. I could have won like a Guinness Book World Record for staring contest. It was from the inflammation in my brain. You just literally I couldn't wait to get home and like stare at a wall. It was the weirdest thing. And then in the middle of the night, my headaches would get so bad, I wouldn't like if I woke up in the night from a headache, I wouldn't let him go back to sleep. Like I thought I was going to die. And so, you know, he does functional medicine. And so we realized there was something systemic going on. And so I got tested and we figured out what it was. And so, you know, thankfully, we've got some great tools and resources in our clinic. We've got a hyperbaric chamber in our home. Like I said, he does functional medicine. So he put me on like a really aggressive natural protocol. And I was able to start to get better within, you know, a few weeks
wow.
where I could actually write an email again, or I could like get through the day. without so much caffeine. I was like, I can't not function. Like, I can't lay in bed and rest all day. I mean, I probably could now looking back with hindsight. But so I was just using like caffeine and ibuprofen to get through. Not great. But again, I was like in the peak of my career and three little kids. What was I going to do?
Mhm.
And so it's like I used these crutches that I knew weren't great, but were short-term, just quote unquote solutions. And then used the natural protocols. And eventually I was able to wean off of the crutches, and I incorporated some new things because I realized I was like, okay, whatever I was doing before the tick bite and the mold toxicity wasn't working. And so I need to start to listen to my body. I knew enough as a chiropractor. It's like, okay, I would have told any woman looking back, she was putting herself in a situation to get sick, to hit burnout, to hit rock bottom. So like, I need to take my own advice here, and I need to work on, the terrain that I was creating, the environment within for my nervous system. I need to fix that. I need to address that in ways that actually fit into my life. So that's what I did.
Melissa, how long do you think? Because I know a lot of people listening will be like, how long were you sick? And what made you
Hmm.
finally, obviously, having your husband not go back to sleep at night? I don't know if it was him or if it was you that finally was like, enough is enough.
Yeah.
Let's say, I want to know like some of those details, like how long were you like this? And who finally said, throw in the towel? And if you didn't have him, where would someone not married to a
Mm.
functional medicine
Ooh.
expert go?
Mhm.
Honestly. And did you know, like, oh, remember that tick bite? Like, yeah, I'd love to hear some of
Mhm.
that.
Yeah, good questions. Okay, so first of all, how long was it going on? Probably, honestly, months, little by little. And I
Okay.
think, I mean, you guys will get this. Like, you're really healthy, and so you've got a big bandwidth for like a large spectrum of things to slowly get worse before you're knocked down. At the same time, when you're really healthy, when little things start to creep up, if you're not someone who's had headaches before and all of a sudden you're getting headaches every day, there's some yellow flags going off, right? And so I think there were a lot of yellow flags. But again, remember, I had a 6-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 1-year-old. I had been like pregnant or breastfeeding for years, co-sleeping with my baby. And so how easy was it to say, I'm just a tired mom.
Yeah.
And so, there were a lot of signals that my body was getting that I wasn't listening to, or I was making excuses. There was one moment where I never let my husband live this down. And like, he's incredible. He's an incredible support system. So we were out on our sailboat. We had a sailboat, which is where I got the mold toxicity. Like, one of the mattresses was like covered in mold. We didn't know
Wow.
underneath it. And we had our kids and an extra kid. Like, one of our kids brought a friend and we had a sleepover on the boat. And the next morning I was just like, I feel really, really, really bad. Like, something is not right. And my husband was like, you probably have keto flu. You guys know what keto flu is. Like, when you start detoxing and lowering your
Yeah.
carbs.
Yes.
I think I
Yeah.
must have been doing some keto. It was the summer. Wanted to get bikini ready. And he's like, get this. He's like, why don't you take the kids home? I'm going to stay here, and me and my dad are going to go fishing. And I was like, oh my God, dude, you have no idea.
How bad
But
I feel.
didn't say anything. I literally remember going and grabbing a coffee because I'm like, how am I going to make this hour drive home with these 4 kids? Like, I'm blasted. But I did. And I don't remember now if it was that day or it must have been like the next day because I didn't have kids with me. And I pulled myself into urgent care. And I realized I was waiting for someone to be like, you know what, Missy? Like, there is something not right and we need to take care of you. And no one was coming to save me, like, not even my husband, to be honest. Because again, I looked fine on the outside. I was a busy, tired mom. Like, how many ways could we look at this that it was just something else? And I think the take home advice or message here for all the women listening is like, we cannot whisper, I don't think I'm okay right now, Like, I was not okay, but I wasn't communicating that super clearly, apparently.
Right.
And so I went to an urgent care. I was like, I need to get tested. Something is not right in my body. Like, I felt every vertebrae locking up. And this man, this doctor, he was like, you are a tired mom. You need to go home and rest.
Wow.
Oh,
Again, not listening, right? And so at that point, I screamed. At that point, I knew enough to know. I was like, you need to put in my chart that you're refusing to test me or I'm not leaving your clinic. And so reluctantly, he tests me. He ran my labs. And sure enough, that's where we found it. And so I was waiting for everyone to save me, and I saved myself. And I think, the message here is like, at times we have to do that. Like, everybody has their own stuff going on. And I think if we're not speaking out super clearly that we're struggling, it, everyone's distracted, everyone's overwhelmed, everyone's bucket is so full of stuff that it's so easy for that to just be in the background, not to be super dramatic, because this wasn't my case, but like, how many people do you think about that, again, this wasn't me, but that commit suicide, and everyone's like, but I thought they were fine.
Yep.
And so many people are silently struggling. So many women are silently struggling. And so for me, again, it wasn't mental health, but my physical health was massively disrupted, and there was no one that would listen. And so I had to take care of myself. And once, we got that diagnosis, it was like, okay, all right, here's what we do. My husband, the fixer, like the very masculine, like, okay, here's the problem, here's the solution, let's get to work. It's like that gray area where everyone kind of struggles to be like, okay, I don't know how to help you. Like, get a coffee, get some rest, take a day off.
Right. And honestly, just thinking the same thing that everybody else did, like, you have a career, you have 3 little kids under the age of 6, like a couple bad nights sleeps,
Yeah.
you're behind the game. It's like,
Right.
I think it's a
I
little more
remember
than
I remember even telling people, like, I'm like, I leave the room and I don't know why I went in that room. And like, how many of us have that happen, And so everyone was like, it's okay, that happens to me all the time. I was like, no, like, it's getting really bad. I'm getting lost on the road. And everyone was just like, it's okay. That happens to the best of us.
uh-huh.
So it's like, okay.
How many times do we drive to the gym and we don't remember how we got there, and it's okay?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so I think, I just wasn't being super clear. And then what would have happened if my husband wasn't funk med? I don't know, you guys. I mean, I could have ended up on the allopathic path and like on, dramatic antibiotics, and then
Yes.
having all the side effects from that. I look at other women that I know. We lived in New Jersey, Lyme disease is rampant. I look at other women that did that, and then they have like autoimmune conditions, and then they got the COVID vaccine. And not to turn this into a talk on that, but it was just like hit after hit after hit of their immune system. Like, because of what I experienced, I'm healthier today because of how I chose to treat it and the questions that I started asking. Like, I need to do this differently. Again, I wasn't going to rely simply on like antibiotics and things to clear out the Lyme. Like, what is underneath it all? I need to get to the root. And that's what changed everything. So, I don't know. I'm thank my lucky stars that he's my husband. I thank my lucky stars that I'm a chiropractor and I knew enough. So if anyone has anything like that going on, I'm the first one to tell them, like, go get functional medicine labs, look outside the traditional medical system. There's so much more going on. And instead of having the side effects, you'll have the side benefits. You can end up healthier than you've ever been.
Yes.
But the way that you address these things is what's going to determine that.
And explain really quick, you just said the functional medicine labs. Will you explain that to somebody who may be not familiar with that?
Yeah, I mean, just really simply, when you go and you get traditional lab work done, it's going to look at like very, very basic, very superficial things. They're comparing you to like a sick population. And so if you're falling within normal range, there's like, quote unquote, nothing wrong with you. And so when we're looking at dramatic black and white things, yes, that'll show up on traditional labs. But when you're looking at like the gray, like autoimmune, hormonal stuff, thyroid stuff, food sensitivities, none of that shows up on traditional labs. And so for the woman or the man who's knows that they don't feel right, and they go to their doctor and they get traditional labs run, and the doctor's like, your blood work's fine. Like, functional medicine labs are what can catch the things that are underneath the radar, where you don't have to wait until you're completely diseased to see it, where you can catch it before, when your body's giving you the signals and you can actually address it. Right? So traditional medicine often waits for a diagnosis, but there's so much that you can do leading up to there. And there's so much that you feel beforehand. So it's preventative medicine. Functional labs, I mean, I recommend there's something that everybody gets like once a year, really.
Well, and honestly, that's what really turned your life around. And so I'm curious, was that immediately once you started uncovering this toxicity, and we found you on the other side of extreme wellness, is now how did you get there? And I know it's a lot about your book and a lot about the steps you had to take.
Yeah. So the question is, how did I get to this other side,
Right.
basically?
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
I
okay,
mean,
you've got the diagnosis, your husband's treating you
mhm.
now. And when did you
Yeah.
start implementing some of these practices?
Yeah. So basically, it was like put out the fire in the house was the tick and, mold protocols. So that was like getting in the chamber, getting in the sauna, doing some detox, taking some supplements. I actually did a round of doxycycline because it had gotten into my, brain and nervous system. So we needed to hit it aggressively. And then, like after you put out a house fire, the house is destroyed, right? You make a mess of the house, but you at least put out the fire. And so what we needed to do is then go and clean the house. And for me, that was, asking those deeper questions like, can I actually incorporate self-care in the moments where I need it most as a busy mama? Can I do things to support my system when I have no time or, no childcare? All these self-care things that I had in my brain, I couldn't experience in that season of my life very easily. Maybe on a Saturday or Sunday, go get the 1 hour massage or the pedicure, all great things. But I don't know, if you guys listening experience this, it's like we're constantly pushing to the end of the day or to the end of the week where we can finally relax, where we can finally have that self-care appointment. And then what happens is we're just running a nervous system in overdrive. And so when we finally get that space, our body doesn't know how to shut down. And so
Mhm.
that looks like the person who's tired but wired. That looks like the
Yep.
person who finally has a moment to relax, and then you sit down and like all the voices come into your head of all the things you need to be doing, all the things you should be doing, all the ways that we've tethered our productivity to our worth will get really loud. And so then we
Mhm.
keep pushing on and we're living in like high beta, fight or flight survival all the time. And so for me, I started to just dabble. I'm like, okay, let me start to listen a little bit better in the mornings when my body's telling me I'm tired. Let me support my nervous system. And so, I changed a few things in my life. Like my mornings were no longer, wake up, slam the coffee, turn on the bright lights, catch up on emails, go listen to Gwar and flip some tires under artificial lighting at CrossFit. My mornings became, I called them my magical mornings. And I was like, how delicious can I make this? And can I do this with my children? Right. So again, I had 6'5" and 6'4" and 1. So we had like a little cool gas fireplace. I would light the fire. I would turn on like some red lights. I would turn on some meditation music. I would just kind of lay there and wake up slowly, like my body was asking me to, and then go work out. And at night, kind of same thing. Like I started just, ditching my screens, hopping off email. I tried to actually just start listening to that voice, again, when it was like, I'm done, enough, I need a break. And so ultimately, I started asking the question, is there a better way to do self-care that can fit in my life? And 100% there is. And so what I've done over the last decade is, leaned in first with my body and listening to that voice as a nervous system guide and someone who's, um, been connected to intuition for much of my life. I was raised this way. That was very easy to kind of follow for me. And then now what I've done is I've bridged it with the neuroscience because I love neuroscience. So, I was walking in this path and experiencing these things in my nervous system. And then I'm like, whoa, is this real? Is there science behind what I'm experiencing? And there is. And so what I realized is that, self-care needs a rebrand. This is what I always say. It's not only these 60-minute appointments, and it doesn't need to be something outside of us. And in fact, it's actually more of an inside job than we've made it. And so true self-care is the ability to downshift our nervous system in any moment. Like I'm talking carpool, I'm talking I self-cared on the ride over here to the podcast studio. Um, I'm talking when you're juggling dinner and homework. And so it's this ability to downshift through our brainwaves, which is like my favorite method that I use. And we can talk about that a little bit if people are interested or if you guys want to go that way.
Absolutely.
Oh, yes. I
Yes.
still have
And
my sheet from when I met you.
Oh, yes.
And these things are so cool. This is like the holy grail, you guys, of true nervous
Mhm.
system regulation. Nervous system regulation is the buzzword of 2026, and that's great. I'm so glad. And like anything that's a buzzword, it's becoming, like too many people are talking about it in ways that are overwhelming and inaccurate. And true nervous
Yes.
system
Yes.
regulation is downshifting in real time, and we can access that in any moment through connection and through these brainwave shifts.
Okay, let's jump into the brainwave
Yes.
shifts because
Okay.
these, and
So
then
good.
I'll explain some of my funniness with how how strategic I can get with some of them, and it's like it doesn't have to. I know you're laughing because I'm like, wait,
She is
how do I do
strategic.
this with not turning any
Right. How
lights
do I do
on
this?
and all the things? But I know half
Yeah.
the world is out there like me, so they're asking the same questions.
100%. Yes, absolutely. So we'll definitely cover that. I love those kinds of questions. So essentially, your nervous system is the operating system of our body and who we are. It runs everything. And we can think about these brain waves as like gears in this machine, in this system, like gears in a car. And so in any moment, we are in essentially one gear. And that gear determines how we experience or process or basically like express and feel the world surrounding us, our environment. And so gear one theta is where we restore. It's where we regulate. It's where we integrate. It's where we have space to kind of like clear out all the tabs and, digest the information rather than feeling like we're drinking from a fire hose. Gear one is called theta. It's where our best ideas, insights, and intuition live. So when you hear someone say, I get my best ideas in the shower, that's theta. And so we can intentionally go into these gears in any moment. Gear two, alpha, this is present time. This is flow state. Alpha is what we're in after a great workout. Like, that grounded but like focused energy where we're able to task switch without becoming overwhelmed. That's alpha. And alpha is our default state, meaning anytime we have a stressful trigger or event, we should basically like read the room, figure out how we need to react for our safety, essentially is how we're hardwired, and then recalibrate back into alpha and present time. But how many of us actually do that, right? It's like we have a stressful event and we stay here until we can do that thing outside of us, right? It's like, oh, I feel overwhelmed. Like, what can I latch onto outside of me to help me? Whether it's let me do some emails, like feel, a little dopamine spike and feel productive and distract myself, or let me doom scroll, or let me like go get a fun coffee, or whatever it is. We've put so much power outside of us when actually we can shift these gears from the inside. And then the last one I'll talk about is gear three. That's beta. That's where most of us live today. And so beta is where we get stuff done. Beta is, it's checking off the to-do list. It's high focus. It's like movement, execution. Beta isn't bad. It's just spending too much time in beta will lead to overstimulation, feelings of high cortisol, or like what's wrong with my hormones? Why am I snapping at my loved ones? Why am I physically here, but mentally everywhere else? Whether it's at any point in your day or like for someone in my season laying next to your child at night and like you're there, but you're not really there. And so, the goal is not eliminating stress in our life, but the goal is having the flexibility to shift gears at any time. Because what this does is it allows you to stop asking what's wrong with me in any moment. Why can that person handle it? Or again, why am I snapping? And instead ask, what gear am I in? And what gear do I want to be in for the task at hand? So it becomes super empowering. Again, this is the holy grail of true nervous system regulation for today's woman.
There we go. I love it. You're like, she just summed it up there. And I will tell you this, in the connection code that Melissa wrote, it's so great because she does go into, and this is where we met her, was on the mat and learning about theta and alpha and beta and how many of us, and again, it's not good or bad, but I also, we've talked about this is what we shared because Melissa also did Ironman at like age 22, like so young. And that insane just drive to get up and go, like, you're a busy mom. Of course, that's going to be the time you work out. And
Right.
where does it happen to be? Bright lights. Like, I never spent a minute in theta, which is, I love how you call it, you're the person who loves daydreaming, exploring ideas, and diving deep into your imagination. I skipped right over theta, as I'm sure you did as well.
100%. When
I
that's
mean,
in actuality like the most important brainwaves for us as women.
yeah. And it doesn't have to be forever. I know even that day you taught us, spend a couple minutes. Like the first thing you do is have
Yes.
a sit space when you wake up. And I'm thinking, and don't turn on any lights. So, but it's like setting out your workout clothes. And you said this in the book, and I love that. Like you're anticipating how the morning is going to look. And I don't even care if you're a mom in her late 20s, early 30s, getting up before your kids is so good for you. And even
Mm-hmm.
just changing the way you and I talked about this, Melissa, the way you wake up, you know, in a very gentle way and not like to your kids screaming at you.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they really mimic what they see, and we co-regulate together, right? And so,
Yes.
our actions speak so loud they can't hear our words. And I will say, 100% as a mama, getting up before our kids is so important. And I'm the mom who, the second I get up, it's like my kids hear me and they're awake.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so you can actually, I mean, anytime I share my morning ritual online, like you will often see Kaya, who's 9, she still joins me for it, and she has since she was a year old. And the boys would get up too. And so there are absolutely ways, like you can ask any question as a mama, like, wait, but my dogs, or wait, but my kids. Like I have lived through it all. And these tools really, they work. And um, so it's, like you said, it doesn't require a ton of time. It's more of a ritual and a routine, and starting in gear 1 and having that warm up before we hit gear 3, just like you wouldn't in a car. You wouldn't go from being in park and expect your car to hit 80 efficiently. So literally my magical mornings are often 10 minutes. It's just like a few minutes in Theta in the yummy red light. My daughter, usually there laying with me, she'll often fall asleep because it's pretty boring. Like I'm not going to play and interact. We're just going to lay here. And then going into alpha connection, whether that's with her or my husband or like journaling, and then going on the emails. I do digital world still pretty early in the morning because I like to get some done before I drive them to school. So this isn't about like living in ancient times and
Right.
not having this fit your lifestyle. Last night I was doing homework with the kids till 9 o'clock at night, right? Like we've got to have some lights on. And so this is very much about making it work in your life, but making tiny, realistic tweaks that can completely change the way that your nervous system feels and functions.
And I love that. I love that you even said as little as 1 to 2 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
It's just sitting there and letting the downloads happen. And you know what? And maybe you sit there longer. Maybe it's 10
Oh,
minutes. And
yeah.
that's what my sister was like. It doesn't, don't be so literal. It doesn't have to be 1 to 2 minutes. I'm thinking, I'll use my Pilates timer. There's no blue light on that because
Yeah.
you don't want to turn on your lights and wake
Yeah.
yourself up. Like you said, it's just, and again, if you are someone, it also doesn't mean you can't go to the gym then. It
Oh,
doesn't mean
yes.
that. It means like you said, theta and alpha. And I love how you call alpha the yoga instructor. Like it's the one that lets you get into flow. And so
Mm-hmm.
just they're just short. Like you said, your ritual is 10 minutes. It's not anything. It's not hours.
Right. Yeah. And so if I were to go back, like now at this point in my life, I have changed when I work out. It works in my schedule. But if I were to go back to my old school CrossFit days, which I loved, like I loved those workouts, I would simply get up, and instead of having coffee and going on my screens, like I would sit in the red light a few minutes. I would just kind of do like a check-in. I am someone who has coffee first thing in the morning. I know most nervous system guides are going to say that's not great. Like, again, this is about doing it
What
your
works for
way.
you?
So for
Yeah.
me, I love that ritual. It feeds my soul. I do like super low caffeine. So either caffeine or not caffeine, but like just taking a few moments to ask questions like, okay, what's coming up for me today? What do I need? How can I ask for support? What would be fun today? Like just that back and forth conversation with our voice before we're checking in on everybody else's. Then maybe, for alpha, like getting out in a little bit of sunlight or lighting a candle, like a flickering flame is really, really good for alpha. Your mirror neurons in your brain will literally mimic the frequency of the flickering flame, which is alpha. And so it puts us in kind of like a trance. Like you think about if you've been at a bonfire or stared at a fire in a fireplace, you're not future tripping or playing out the past. You're in the zone. And so, what's really important about taking time in each of these gears is not just how it's going to set you up for feeling in your day, but what it does is it creates familiarity in the gears. And so when we do that, like our nervous system craves familiar. It makes it feel safe. And so the more we create these rituals, even for a couple minutes, what happens is later in the day when we're living in beta and pushing, and maybe our old style would be, all right, let me push through until the end of the day and then I can relax. What we'll start to actually notice is, okay, I've got a 5-minute break. Let me actually follow what my body's trying to tell me. It needs a break. And instead of doom scrolling, which will keep you in beta, I love a doom scroll. It's not bad, but like, let's call it what it is and what it's not. It's not a brain break. So maybe in those moments, you're actually going to be pulled into something that is alpha, which actually is a break, and lets you clear out those tabs and lets you spend a little bit of time in a gear that actually leads to peak performance the rest of your day, right? So this isn't a waste of time. This is like a priming of the brain. And so every time that we spend even a couple minutes in these gears, it's like you're training your nervous system. Here's how you find this later when you need it most. And so what that looks like is the woman who maybe always, felt chaotic or out of control or like life is moving really fast. And all of a sudden, like one of the first things I experienced was, whoa, like this is really easy. Like I'm getting it all done and I'm actually feeling space. And I'm actually feeling like I like how I'm doing it. I'm not like a raging lunatic, like push through, and then I'll enjoy time with my kids. Like I'm able to do it in the present moment. And so the reason why that's so important to me, and the more women I work with, the reason why this is important to today's women is nearly every woman I've asked what her biggest fear is. It all boils down to one thing. And that one thing is looking back and regretting this life. And so either regretting not living it as it was in front of her. And usually what that means is not checking off the list and being productive, but like, what am I actually here for? Or missing the precious moments with our children or the seasons, rushing through them. And so this changes all of that. You're still getting it all done. You're just actually liking who you are as you do it.
Oh, that's so good. And I walked through a really challenging divorce. And that is when I discovered this. In the mornings, I took the time I called it my prayer room, and I didn't tell anybody I was doing it because at the time, I thought my family would probably think I was really weird to go down and stay in the darkness and do my breath work and light the candle and just spend that time alone. But it is truly what saved my life in so many ways. And so once Molly said, "You are so different, like how you're handling walking through this, being 100% commission, so having to perform constantly, it is something that I do before I go into a listing appointment, right? I have to take some time to sit for a couple minutes. And I've taught my 26-year-old high-achieving daughter to do the same as she's in a high-pressure sales job. So I just so appreciate you feeling called and knowing your purpose to write this book. It is phenomenal. Molly, if you want to hold it up, the connection code, and just to know that, to listen to your voice and to heal yourself, and then know that, like Molly said, you're most powerfully positioned to serve the person you once were. So thank you for helping women like us who were where you were, so you're serving humanity in such a beautiful way. And I'm so grateful.
I know,
Thank you.
Melissa. There's so much to this, and honestly, read her book, follow her podcast, Be Inspired Mama.
It's phenomenal.
Podcast. It's wonderful, and lots of guests, like what we like to do. But we always do like to ask our guests, as a nervous system regulator and educator, what would you say that our podcast is called Meet Me in the Penthouse. What does the penthouse mean to you?
Yeah, the penthouse to me, when I hear that word, I think of like the top floor of a beautiful building and the expansive view, And so I guess, penthouse to me is expansiveness. It's as beautiful as we want things to be, they could be. I think that we all deserve joy and fun and freedom in our lives. And, sometimes the most limitations that we have and that we're experiencing are self-inflicted. And they're through like these prisons that we create for ourselves through, again, tying worth to productivity and, listening to everyone else before ourselves. And we can have this expansiveness and this joy and this beautiful view back in our life again, simply through these like 2-minute tools, and it changes everything.
It's that simple.
And then online, what is your website? Because yes, your tools, they need to go to your website. It's phenomenal.
Yeah. Actually, a great link that we can put in the show notes. There's a masterclass that I teach. It's a 15-minute masterclass that women tend to love. So if this resonated, I would check this out. It's called the Urgency Reset. So for any woman who's maybe living in like that high-paced, get it all done, right? Again, this isn't going to take away your ability to get it all done. It's just going to change how you show up as you do it. So the Urgency Reset, we can link below. It's like a 15-minute masterclass walking you through in real time how to downshift your brainwaves. So I would highly recommend that. We can link that below. Another really cool free resource for your audience is a checklist. I love a checklist. So I've got a checklist of a couple of my favorite 2-minute tools that you can use in any moment. So we can drop that below. And both of those will tether back to my main website where they can find everything. And then lastly, we'll probably link the book too for anyone interested in grabbing that.
Absolutely. It is worth it. And worth a gift to your friends as well. So I love what you've taught us today. Thank you so much for just bringing so much wisdom to what is really going to help women and men, especially those that are high achieving and living in beta most of their lives, like all of us used
Most
to.
of us, yeah.
And so
Still,
thank you for
I mean,
shining the light.
Yeah, I think still it's we're living in a very beta dominant world. And so again, this isn't about eliminating that, but it's just knowing how to work with it and how to adapt. Yeah. So glad. It was such an honor to be here. Anyone who listens and this resonates, like, be in touch. I love hearing from my audience, and check out the free resources.
Yes, and we do as well. So if you love this podcast, number one, share it with people that you know it's going to benefit. Yes. And however you listen to it on whatever platform, we love 5-star reviews, and we love all the reviews, of course, but we know there's a lot of 5-star reviews out there. So just make sure to like, subscribe, and give us a 5-star review, and go follow Melissa. And I can't wait to see what you discover about yourself. So thanks for joining us for another great episode for Meet Me in the Penthouse. Thanks so much for joining us for another episode of Meet Me in the Penthouse. And we would love to have you follow us at www.sistersnextdoor.com.
Anywhere that you listen to your podcast, please feel free to give us 5 stars, because we know you're going to find us fabulous, and pass this along to any friends that you know would enjoy this episode.